Alright, welcome back to Mastering MMA. Coach Lee here with you again. Today we are going to talk about watching fights differently. So I'm sure a lot of you out there really enjoy fights. It's probably part of the reason you got into this game. But I love watching fights. I watch them as much as I can, which isn't nearly enough. But, you know, I watch them when I can. But sometimes I watch them differently. So what I mean by that is a lot of times if I go out and watch a UFC event or Bellator or even local events, amateur events or whatever it is, a lot of times I just sit back and enjoy the fights. Because that's a big part of it, right? I want to enjoy it. I don't want it to be all business. I don't want it to lose the fun. But then a lot of times I'll go back and rewatch fights or certain people's fights. But I watch it not so much as a fan, but as a coach. And sometimes as a judge, right? You want to look and see why things went that way. But when you go back and watch fights to learn from them, you've got to watch it differently. You can't just watch it as a fan, right? It's not the big things that makes the crowd erupt. That the things that you get excited about, brings you out of your chair or whatever it is. That's not necessarily what you're watching for. If you're watching it as a coach or as an athlete who wants to learn from high-end athletes, you watch it a little different. You watch it and you pay attention to footwork, or even that big moment, that brought everybody out of their seats. What led up to that? Why did that happen, right? Was it a combination that they had been setting up earlier in the round or rounds previous, or was it a submission that they tricked him into making a big mistake? Like things like that. Is it some footwork that got him to an angle where he could blast somebody in the face, or whatever it may be? Like, you're looking for the details, the minor details, because in general, and not all the time, but in general, most of your stuff that you're seeing a fight finish with, or that brings you out of the seat or something, is usually something most people know how to do. But there's minor details that make it happen easier for that person, right? I talked in another video, and I can put a link to it here, but about being a specialist versus well-rounded. That was actually my last video I made. But so a specialist is really good, right? Those people, you can really pick up some small details from that is what makes them great at what they do. So if you go back and you watch for those little things, right, you can learn so much from these fighters that are high end, or even sometimes I'm watching coaches, right? I like to watch coaches coach, and not just in MMA, but in all sports, right? Because you can, as I'm a coach now, right, I can learn from other great coaches. The way they coach, the way they speak to their athletes, things like that. Even though they might not be coaching MMA, I can learn from coaches from all different sports. Granted, I like to learn from the MMA coaches, the great MMA coaches, the best. And I've actually changed my coaching style over the years due to seeing other people coach and seeing things they did that I like. So I added it to how I coach. That being said, I don't coach exactly like any other coach I've seen. I think that's pretty impossible, and I also think if you're doing that, you're not going to be a good coach, right? You can't imitate somebody and be your very best, if that makes sense. You've got to add your own flavor to it, but it's good to learn from other coaches, right? You take a piece from here, a piece from there. It's kind of like if you're playing a video game, you want to build your ultimate fighter or whatever. You build up this stat, you build up this stat. This stat kind of let go because you can only use so many points or whatever. It's kind of like that, right? I grab a little piece from this coach and a little piece from that coach, and a little piece from that coach, and that's kind of how I come together. And not only that, I am constantly trying to better myself as a coach. I'm still getting better at fighting. Even though I'm not competing anymore, right? I'm constantly learning, and then I'm also constantly learning how to coach so that I can pass on more information to the people that want it. And that's what it's all about for me as a coach. Is just passing on this knowledge. And I'm constantly learning and changing my game a little bit. And kind of the method I go through at this point in my life is I'll pick something up from somewhere. Let's say it's a move, but I'll pick it up from somewhere, and I'll get together with some guys from the gym, and I'll drill it, for a round here and there. And depending on the difficulty, sometimes I don't even have to drill it. Sometimes it's a minor detail I can throw right in my game immediately and start hitting it live on the better guys that I'm working with. But if let's just say it's something really hard. So in general, what happens is I start drilling it like for a round, right? And then I'll kind of go back and pick myself apart and kind of figure out why things weren't smooth, or why they didn't quite work like I thought they should. And then after I kind of think about it a little bit, I'll go back and drill it again. But it's a little bit different, right? And we're talking, more advanced stuff here, right? If it's something simple, obviously I can just throw it in my game, hit somebody with it the first round I try. But we're talking more difficult things there. So as it goes on, eventually I start hitting it with on the newer people, right? And a lot of times it's still rough because I'm still figuring it out, right? And on top of that, I got to figure out how to get them to go to wherever I need them to go so I can hit this one specific thing I'm working on. So that adds a little bit to it also, is figuring out how to manipulate your opponent into going where you want them to go so you can test out what you're learning. But anyways, so I go up through the ranks until I start hitting it on pretty decent guys. Once I start hitting it on pretty decent guys and I feel comfortable with it, it's only then that I start to even consider teaching it to somebody else. Right? Once I start hitting it, I'm feeling pretty comfortable with it. I usually go back and look at it some more and try to figure out like what little details can I work out to make it work better for me. And then a lot of times I'll start hitting it on the higher guys, or at least coming close to it, before I ever even think about teaching it to somebody. But that being said, I have picked up some minor things and went in the gym this week and hit it 5 rounds over the weekend. Hit that same whatever I was drilling 5 rounds over in the weekend, and went out and showed somebody the very next week because it was simple, right? It wasn't anything big. But when I'm working on really hard stuff, like it's a big process, right? I don't want to go out there and show somebody and not give them the very best I can give them. So I kind of put it through a process, which helps me learn. And then on top of that, just me knowing how to do it doesn't mean I can pass the knowledge along to my athletes, right? I've got to figure out how to connect with my athletes and how to get what I'm trying to put out across. So that's where watching coaches and learning from other coaches comes into play, right? So I see how these other coaches talk to their athletes, or how they relate to athletes of a different mentality, right? Because everybody's different. I can't have a one-size-fits-all approach, or else I'm not going to get through to a lot of people. I know when I teach classes, a lot of times I might say something, describe something in 3 or 4 different ways, trying to get it through, and still somebody might not catch a grasp of it and ask me about it. And sometimes I can come up with another way right there. Sometimes I got to go home and think about it, and I get back with them later, like, hey, I thought about it. Does this make sense? Does this click for you to make you understand what I'm trying to show you? So I watch a lot of coaches to get better at that point, because me knowing doesn't give me the ability to show you how to do it, or to show one of my students how to do it. I also have to figure out how to get it across, and that's kind of why a lot of my videos, it seems kind of repetitive, but I'm trying to say things in different ways and relate them to different things. I relate stuff to a lot of sports, other sports other than MMA, just because a lot of people that are MMA or in MMA grew up doing other stuff. Whether it's baseball or basketball or whatever. So I relate a lot of stuff to that. Soccer, whatever it is, right? If I know that you played a sport or something, a lot of times I'll try to figure out how I can explain what I am doing and relate it back to something you've done for the majority of your life, right? Whether, you played baseball or basketball or whatever for the majority of your life, right? A lot of times I can figure out how to relate it back, and it might not be an exact thing, but it'll get you close to where you can kind of figure it out with your own body, which is my job as a coach, is to get you really close and then try to help you work on those details. But some of it you got to figure out on your own, because we're two different people, right? Our bodies are a little different, everything, sometimes our bodies are a lot different. But my job is to show you how it is, and then try to do my best to get you to understand what I'm trying to show, that gets you as close as I can to your perfect, right? And your perfect might be different from my perfect, and that's perfectly fine. So that's one reason I watch fights a different way. So another reason I watch fights a different way is to, as a coach, is to watch footage on opponents or my athletes. So we'll talk about that for just a moment here. And also, if you're getting something out of this, please click that like button for me. It definitely helps out. But anyways, if I find out one of my athletes is fighting somebody, the first thing I'm doing is trying to find video footage on it. The newer the better, but sometimes old stuff helps too. And the more the better, right? The more I can watch, the better I can start the game plan for somebody. But what I'm watching for there is, if I'm watching my athlete or the person they're fighting, is bad habits and strong points. Those are the things that I look at most when I'm watching fights, to get footage for a upcoming fight. Because I'm watching for, and sometimes it's not even bad habits, just things habits that they have, right? Are they prone to throwing a certain combo or a certain submission or whatever that is? Or, are they prone to certain footwork? Do they always slip a jab to the inside or always slip a jab to the outside, right? So that lets me start to point my athletes in the right directions to figure out how to get their opponent to move to a spot where we already know that's what they're going to do, or to manipulate their opponent into putting them in my athlete's strong point. So say, for example, let's say somebody feint, if you fake a takedown, just kind of drop the knee, but don't actually shoot. And, the guy that they're fighting is prone to really dropping their hands hard, then we might be dropping our level like we're going to shoot that takedown, especially if my athlete's known for a takedown. And then, as soon as they drop their level and their opponent's hands drop, we're coming back up with a hard hook or something, right? So I'm looking at things like that. Or, every time their opponent throws a jab, does their rear hand drop away from their jaw, right? So should we be slipping the jab and landing the hook, or, things like that. So that's another way you can look at a fight different, right? And on that same note, so if you're not a coach, you're a fighter, you should be watching your old fights and just picking yourself apart. And when you watch that, you should watch your old fights as if you were going to fight the old you. And obviously still the newer footage, the better. And the great thing about this is it doesn't necessarily have to be a fight, right? You can be randomly recording your sessions at the gym. Get your training sessions and record yourself sparring or record yourself grappling or whatever it is, right? And you should do that periodically and go back and watch the footage and really focus on it and pick yourself apart. What would you do if you had to fight you? Right? Because our goal here is to constantly get a little bit better. We had a big saying in the MMA Institute is 1% better every day, right? And the only way to see if you're progressing is to look at where you were. And honestly, the best way to do that is to randomly record yourself and go back and pick yourself apart, right? Don't just focus on the good things you do. Like, look at the bad stuff you do, right? Let's clean that up. And even the good things you do, look at it and see if there's something a little bit you could change to make it a little bit better, right? That's how you're going to become great at something, is fixing minor details, right? You might be real good at the guillotine, right? But you might see a little minor detail you could have done different in your setup to get there that will eventually pay off down the road and make you so much better because you've made that little minor change. And sometimes it's a minor difference. It's the difference between good and great. It's just something minor. So really pick yourself apart when you go back and look at that footage. And I guarantee you'll be able to help yourself out a lot that way. So anyways, that's my reasons for watching fights different. Like I say, still enjoy watching fights, right? Go out and enjoy watching the big events, enjoy watching local events. But then on occasion, go back and watch for a different purpose, right? For a learning purpose. You'll definitely be able to self-help there a lot and teach yourself a lot learning off of your mistakes and other mistakes and the things you do good and that others do good, right? So go back and review that game film, right? It'll make a big difference. If you haven't yet, hit that like button for me. Subscribe if you haven't, hit the notification bell. It's less than half of the people that are watching my videos are subscribed. So if you all could subscribe, that will help out a whole lot. I need to clear 1,000 subscribers. Hopefully I can do that sooner than later. And if you're subscribed and hitting that notification bell, that's going to help me advance my channel a lot. I really appreciate that. Also, please share on social media. I'm trying to get as many eyes to this as possible so I can get the followers up and help as many people as possible. I want to spread this knowledge as much as possible. So that's the spiel for today, and we will catch you next time on Mastery MMA with Coach Lee.